Breaking news tonight. For days, America believed President Donald Trump had vanished due to illness. No rallies, no golf appearances, no fiery rants on social media. Theories flooded the airwaves. Was it a stroke? Cancer? A collapse behind closed doors? But now, shocking revelations suggest the truth was far darker and infinitely more scandalous. According to explosive anonymous leaks from staff inside Trump's private golf club, the president was not fighting for his life. He was indulging it. Witnesses described nights of champagne, closed doors, and a rotating cast of escorts slipping in and out under the cover of darkness. One staffer whispered to journalists, "It wasn't the White House. It was a palace of pleasure. He didn't look sick. He looked thrilled." Photos allegedly show tinted windows in limousines arriving at midnight. Kitchen staff reported trays of expensive wine and exotic food ordered only for Trump and his guests. Security guards privately admitted that journalists were kept away, not because of health concerns, but to hide the president's private escapades. The country wondered if their leader was clinging to survival, when in reality, he was clinging to vice. Across America, outrage collided with fascination. On talk shows, hosts asked if this was the greatest presidential scandal since Watergate or something even sleazier. Memes exploded online, painting Trump not as a fallen statesman, but as a reckless playboy who abandoned his duties for nights of lust. Headlines screamed, "From commander-in-chief to playboy-in-chief?" Tonight, the question isn't just where Trump has been. The question is, how much of this sordid story will America uncover? And if the leaks are true, what happens when a president trades his oath of office for nights of pleasure? As Trump's absence stretched into a fourth day, the American media machine went into overdrive. Cable networks filled the silence with grim speculation. Anchors whispered about unconfirmed reports of chest pains and late-night emergency calls. Analysts debated whether the president had suffered a mini-stroke or worse. "We've never seen Donald Trump this quiet," one commentator said. "The man lives for cameras." If he isn't showing his face, something catastrophic has happened. Across the country, panic simmered. Supporters on conservative talk radio prayed for his health, describing him as the last wall standing between America and chaos. Meanwhile, markets trembled. Investors pulled back, afraid of the uncertainty surrounding the Oval Office. Hashtags like hashtag pray for Trump and hashtag Trump health trended across social media, mixing genuine concern with wild conspiracy theories. But behind the scenes, whispers began to circulate. Too faint for headlines, too scandalous for mainstream anchors, yet impossible to ignore. Anonymous voices on internet forums claimed staff at Trump's golf resort had seen the president alive and well, walking with a swagger, not a limp. Some alleged he was celebrating, not suffering. A blurry photo, supposedly taken through tinted glass, appeared online showing a man with Trump's distinctive silhouette holding a glass of champagne. The image went viral within hours. Still, the mainstream narrative clung to illness. "He's old, he's overweight, and he's been under incredible stress," one medical analyst said on CNN. "The odds of a major health crisis are sky high." Opponents speculated about succession, openly asking whether Vice President J.D. Vance was ready to assume power. Yet the longer the rumors persisted, the stranger they became. Every hour that passed without proof of illness only added to the mystery. Was the president truly bedridden, or was America being deceived by the greatest cover-up in modern political history? The narrative of illness began to crumble when the first anonymous leak hit the press. Late at night, a major tabloid dropped a bombshell. According to staff at Trump's private golf club in Virginia, the president had not been in a hospital bed at all. He had been hosting what one insider described as a private carnival of pleasure. The source, whose voice was disguised in a televised interview, painted a lurid picture. We were told to keep our mouths shut. No phones, no cameras. But I saw it with my own eyes. 2, sometimes 3 women, arriving after midnight. They weren't guests. Everyone knew what they were. And the president? He looked healthier than ever, laughing, drinking, and staying up till dawn. Details spilled out like gasoline on fire. Champagne bottles stacked by the dozen. Gourmet meals served only to Trump and his special company. Curtains drawn tight in presidential suites that stayed lit until morning. Another whistleblower from the kitchen claimed he was tipped extra cash for discreet service. It wasn't a sick man's diet, he said. It was lobster, caviar, and whiskey. This was no hospital recovery. It was indulgence. As the leaks multiplied, so did the outrage. Tabloids screamed with front-page headlines, "Playboy President? Sick leave or Sin City?" Talk radio exploded with theories, and late-night comedians sharpened their knives. Memes portrayed Trump in a bathrobe surrounded by scantily clad women, mocking the idea that he was too frail for public life. The White House, caught off guard, refused to comment, only fueling suspicions. Reporters demanded answers, but press secretary briefings were abruptly canceled. "If this is false, why not deny it?" asked one journalist. The silence spoke louder than words. For millions of Americans, the question shifted overnight. No longer, is Trump dying, but is Trump lying? What began as whispers of illness now roared as a scandal of lust, betrayal, and dereliction of duty. And it was only the beginning. By the morning after the leaks, the media storm had grown into a full-blown hurricane. Every network, every newspaper, every talk show was consumed with one question. What had President Trump really been doing during his mysterious disappearance? Headlines screamed in bold letters, from Commander-in-Chief to Playboy-in-Chief and White House of Secrets. Tabloids splashed photos of limousines idling outside Trump's golf resort, their tinted windows hiding the alleged guests inside. Cable news panels dissected the rumors with forensic intensity. One commentator sneered, "If these reports are true, the president wasn't sick, he was sinning." Another analyst compared the story to Bill Clinton's Monica Lewinsky scandal, except 10 times louder and with 3 times as many women. Late-night comedians roasted him relentlessly, running skits where actors dressed as escorts marched confidently out of the Oval Office while Trump waved behind them in a silk bathrobe. What gave the story even more oxygen were the so-called secondary leaks. Journalists claimed to have obtained receipts from the golf club showing exorbitant orders of champagne, seafood, and luxury desserts during the exact days Trump was missing from public view. The totals reached tens of thousands of dollars, fueling the narrative that this was no quiet retreat, but a lavish indulgence. Meanwhile, anonymous staffers continued to feed the fire. One security guard allegedly confessed that he had been ordered to keep reporters far from a side entrance where special guests were arriving. Another insider described seeing piles of designer handbags left casually in the club's VIP lounge, items clearly not belonging to political aides. The White House's silence only deepened the frenzy. Press briefings were canceled, Trump avoided cameras, and spokespeople refused to answer direct questions. For the media, this was confirmation by omission. If the story were false, why not shut it down? By midday, the scandal had eclipsed every other headline in America. Commentators called it the dirtiest White House mystery in modern history. And with every passing hour, the firestorm grew hotter, consuming Trump's carefully crafted image of strength and replacing it with one of decadence, secrecy, and betrayal. By the afternoon, the scandal had leapt from tabloids and cable news into the halls of Congress. Lawmakers, sensing blood in the water, wasted no time in seizing the moment. Leading the charge was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, already known for her fiery clashes with Trump. Standing on the House steps before a sea of cameras, she delivered a blistering attack. While Americans were waiting for leadership, their president was hosting a private circus of champagne and prostitutes. This isn't just immoral, it's a betrayal of his oath to the Constitution. Her words ricocheted across the nation, instantly becoming the clip of the day on social media. Millions replayed the footage of Crockett pointing at the cameras and demanding answers. "Donald Trump swore to defend this country," she thundered. "Instead, he abandoned it for a weekend of pleasure." That is not leadership. It's negligence. Other Democrats piled on. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted me, "If even half of these reports are true, it represents the most disgraceful dereliction of duty in modern history." Governor Gavin Newsom went further, appearing on live television to declare, "A president who treats the White House like a nightclub is unfit to lead." Calls for investigations into Trump's behavior began to circulate among House committees. Republicans scrambled for cover. Some dismissed the story as tabloid gossip, accusing Democrats of exploiting rumors. But privately, aides admitted the scandal was toxic, particularly in an election season where Trump had built his brand on toughness and patriotism. "He can survive 1,000 policy failures," one GOP strategist whispered, "but this hits voters in the gut. It makes him look weak. It makes him look like a joke." On the streets, protesters picked up the message. Outside the White House, crowds waved signs that read, "Playboy duty first, not desire. Chance of resign," echoed as cameras rolled. For many Americans, the anger wasn't about morality alone. It was about abandonment. At a time when the nation craved stability, the image of a president vanishing into a private world of vice felt like a final insult. By nightfall, the scandal was no longer just a rumor. It was a political crisis, and Trump's silence only made it louder. By the next morning, the scandal had spilled out of Washington and into the living rooms, cafes, and streets of America. The leaks and allegations weren't just headlines anymore. They were the nation's conversation. Morning talk shows played endless loops of late-night comedians mocking Trump with sketches of the Oval Office turned into a neon-lit nightclub. Memes flooded the internet, photoshopped images of Trump in a silk robe, sunglasses on, flanked by women in sequined dresses. Hashtags like hashtag Playboy President, hashtag Oval Office After Dark, and hashtag Where Was Trump topped trending lists for 48 hours straight. On college campuses, students staged parody protests, holding up inflatable champagne bottles and signs that read, "Make America Party Again." In contrast, church congregations in the Midwest held prayer vigils, where pastors condemned the president's alleged actions as a moral collapse at the highest level. Across the political spectrum, the story was impossible to ignore. Polls conducted in real time revealed a shocking split. Roughly 40% of Americans believed the scandal was real. 30% insisted it was exaggerated or fabricated, and the rest said they weren't sure, but weren't surprised. For millions, the details mattered less than the image. While the nation thought its leader was incapacitated, he was allegedly indulging in a bacchanal of vice. In downtown Chicago, protesters marched with banners reading, "Duty, not debauchery," while in Los Angeles, Street artists painted murals mocking Trump as a clownish emperor surrounded by empty champagne bottles. Meanwhile, Trump's supporters clung to denial. Rallies in Florida featured chants of fake news and signs accusing Democrats of smearing the president. Yet even in those crowds, some admitted unease. "If it's true," one supporter told a reporter, "I can't defend it. This isn't the man I voted for." The atmosphere was electric, part outrage, part carnival. America wasn't just debating policy anymore. It was gossiping about its president like he was a character in a tawdry reality show. And in that gossip, the perception of leadership was dissolving. By nightfall, commentators warned that Trump's greatest enemy might not be Congress, courts, or foreign adversaries. It might be the laughter of his own people, and the realization that, in their eyes, he had become a joke. By the end of the week, the narrative of illness had been buried under a mountain of scandal. What began as whispers about the president's health had transformed into a full-blown national reckoning. Investigative reports compiled the leaks, the receipts, the anonymous testimonies, and painted a single, damning picture. Donald Trump hadn't vanished because of sickness. He had vanished because he chose indulgence over duty. One explosive article summed it up with brutal clarity. While America waited for its leader, Trump was waiting for his next bottle of champagne. Photos of the golf club's lavish catering orders splashed across front pages, paired with blurred images of women allegedly leaving in chauffeured cars. Talk show hosts openly mocked the idea of a working-class champion who couldn't resist disappearing into nights of luxury. In Congress, Democrats declared they were preparing hearings to investigate dereliction of duty at the highest level. Jasmine Crockett delivered another fiery speech. The President of the United States abandoned his post for pleasure. He mocked his oath, he mocked his people, and he mocked the very idea of democracy. Her words drew thunderous applause from her caucus and dominated headlines for days. Meanwhile, the public reached its own verdict. For millions, it wasn't about legality. It was about trust. Parents told reporters they were ashamed to explain the headlines to their children. Veterans said they felt betrayed, watching their commander-in-chief retreat into decadence while they sacrificed for the nation. Even some loyal supporters quietly admitted that the story, true or not, had shattered the image of Trump as a tireless fighter for the people. And then came the final blow. A leaked internal memo from Trump's own staff, reportedly instructing employees to divert all questions to personal matters and minimize discussion of recreational activities. For critics, it was the smoking gun. By the time Trump re-emerged, smiling and defiant, the damage was already done. The illusion of illness had collapsed, replaced by an even more devastating narrative that in the moment America needed leadership most, its president had chosen lust, leisure, and secrecy. The scandal ended not with answers, but with a haunting question. If a president can vanish into decadence and still hold power, what does that say about the future of the American Republic?